Welcome to the Startup Support Surgery podcast, where we light the entrepreneurial spark in medics and healthcare professionals. Join me, Dr. Jo Watkins, GP, business coach and co-founder of The How People, on a journey to discover where your medical know-how meets the business world. This will help you find some clarity on how to balance work, passions and family so that you can gain more freedom and control over your life, but also continue to help people, which is actually why most of us went into medicine to start with. Embarking on this entrepreneurial adventure is not easy. It is a roller coaster of emotions, but it's hugely rewarding and exciting in the process. Drawing on my 20 years of blending medicine and business as a GP, I am here to share experiences, insights and lessons. Expect lively chats, expert interviews and real-life stories from medics who have taken their own path. Let's break free from traditional healthcare norms and explore more innovative ways of making a real difference to people's health and well-being, along with paving the way for a brighter future for us as healthcare professionals. Oh, don't miss my free PDF called From Stethoscope to Startup, which is an 11-page guide in the show notes full of practical help and advice. This is your roadmap to kickstarting your journey with us. Enjoy the show. I have had some incredible guests on this podcast. I have had some brilliant experts, some fantastic case studies of medics and entrepreneurs. I have spoken to a huge variety of people and I have loved every minute of it, and I am going to continue to do that. But what I thought I'd try and do is a couple of solo episodes, just sharing some of my experience, some of my thought processes, some of the stuff that I do behind the scenes within my program and within my work one-to-one with doctors. As I draw to the end of 30 episodes, I said at the beginning of when I started this podcast that I wanted to do 30 episodes a year to be able to share my expertise, share my thoughts and share the experiences of others. So I'm going to do some solo episodes and see how they go down. The first one is really starting with those first principles. And these are the principles, as I will explain, that you will find in the free PDF. So I've recorded a half an hour podcast version of my PDF where I talk through the things to do before you even start in business. I'm then going to share with you some other podcasts over the next couple of weeks, and I would really, really love to hear from you. So let me know what you think. Let me know how you find it with just me. Let me know whether you found the content helpful. I am always on the end of an email. I'm always on the end of a direct message. I just want to be able to support anybody that's out there that's not sure what next step to take. If you're not ready to reach out and maybe work in a group or maybe work one-to-one, you might just get the 1 or 2 snippets of advice from these sessions that will help you be able to move forward with your idea. Anything is possible, but I am not here to tell you that it's easy. I'm here to give you real life insights, real life thoughts, and practical solutions and suggestions as to how you go about doing this, how you go about venturing into this new world of entrepreneurship that is so very, very different to the world of medicine that we are used to. Yes, medics make great entrepreneurs. There is no doubt about it. But there's a whole process of unlearning that needs to happen first. There are steps you need to take that are going to make you feel uncomfortable. There are decisions you need to make before you feel ready. There are ways that you're going to have to show up before you feel like you've got all of the ducks lined up. All of those things are very normal. All of those things I'm going to discuss in the coming episodes. So here's the first one. It's about that concept of stethoscope to start up to accompany the PDF. I hope you enjoy. Right, today we're going to do something a little bit different. We are going to talk about the 4 steps and the 4 big things that I discuss in my free PDF, which is linked to all of these podcast episodes. And I thoroughly recommend that you download if you're at the beginning of this journey, if you've been doing it for a while. it doesn't make a difference. As I've just been discussing with some of my clients on the program, this is a really good thing to go back and review on a regular basis, because these 4 things evolve as you evolve in your business, and are the kind of bedrock that everything is built on. So what is this all about? What we're doing is we're trying to put into place some of the things that are required to build a business on. It's particularly difficult if you're a bit of a creative, you're a bit of an ideas person, you sometimes wake up in the middle of the night with your head buzzing full of things that you want to do. It's quite easy sometimes to get very carried away with things. And having been there myself, I can totally understand the excitement of that new idea, that new need, particularly as medics, when we've often been in an environment where everything is very linear and very set out for us, to suddenly start having these ideas that you're passionate about and things that you really, really want to do. It's very easy for us to get very caught up in that process. So these are bedrocks. These are the things that we need in place before we start building what we want to build alongside our medical profession. Most of us haven't done business before. Most of us are new to entrepreneurship once we have our first or second idea. And it's very easy for us to look online, particularly at the moment, and see all these very polished, very successful people telling us that we can do all these things very easily. And I'm seeing increasingly medics going into the entrepreneurial space feeling like it's going to be a walk in the park. You're going to go from $0 to $10,000 a month within 6 months. You're going to blow up your internet presence. You're going to be having clients attracted to you from all around the world. That's the impression that we're given sometimes by people a lot further ahead than us, and those people that aren't really explaining to us the realistic timeline that happens in between idea and success. And there is no such thing as overnight success. I know everybody knows that, but behind every one of these people is often 20 years of hard work that is not discussed. So I like to bring a bit of realism into this without sort of pissing on bonfires. But actually, I really want you to try and set this up in a way that gives you longevity and means you don't burn out from entrepreneurship, as many people are finding they're struggling in medicine. It's certainly not an easy way out, but it is possible, and there are steps to take. So quite often people come to me having done some training. They've done a diploma in lifestyle medicine. They've done their coaching diploma. They've trained in the menopause. They're passionate about their subject, but they want to bring it to an audience in a different way. So quite often people have an idea of a thing, a solution to a problem, a way to help people. And that is obviously one of the most important things. But what I'm looking at now is what you need to be able to build that and make that into a real life thing. So just to touch on that thing, when you come up with your idea or you do your training and you think, right, I want to bring this to life, I think there are ways of looking at that idea, first of all, and saying, okay, well, how do I bring this idea into a commercial space? Like, is there a real need for this problem? Or is this just a problem that I am having? Is this something that really aligns with my passions, what I'm good at? Is this something that I'm going to be able to do again and again and again without being paid? And within my program, within the first module, I go through this in lots of different ways, because I think passion is one thing, and it's really important to have an interest. But actually this persistence piece, this fact that this thing, whatever you choose to do, is going to be a massive part of your life, and you're going to need to get up day after day after day to do it, is really, really important. Because I think particularly when I did my first granola business, I'm not a baker. I'm not hugely passionate about breakfast cereal. It's not something I'd been doing forever. It was a brand and a business that I really, really enjoyed building, but there were lots of things about the basics of it that were not really aligned to something that really lit me up. And that process of self-coaching that I went through on our travels, I really, really drill down on those things that I could do happily without being paid, getting up early in the morning, trying to fit it into my day. Was that going to be something I was passionate about? So you have to have an interest. And there's a lot of people pushing back on that and saying, well, your passion doesn't have to be monetized, etc. But I do think you've got to have a real interest and love in what you're doing. So that's one of the first things to do. And there are various exercises of how to do that within the free PDF that I suggest that you download, plus some books that I recommend if you're struggling with that, as to, how to start pursuing that a little bit more. So once you've worked out what your thing is, once you've decided that you're going to give this a go, there are 4 things that we need to look at. The first is time. The second is a sense of place. The third is people. And the fourth is money. Now, to start a business and to run a business, we need time and or money, but most likely we need a bit of both. Time is a big one for medics. The vast majority of people I work with are not sitting around twiddling their thumbs, wondering what on earth to do with their time. The vast majority of people that I work with who are healthcare professionals and medics with a business idea wanting to take this forward are already very busy people. Everybody's time looks different, but we have to look at our time and we have to be really honest about what we're able to do. I've got people in my group who have got 3 or 4 children who are all under the age of 10. I've got people with teenagers. I've got people with children with special needs. I've got people who have taken early retirement. I've got people who don't have children at all, people with full-time jobs, people that have been made redundant, people that are locuming. Every single one of those people has a different perception of time, but also realistically has a different number of hours in their day. You cannot compare progress. If you've got a full-time job and 3 children under the age of 10, your progress is going to be slower than somebody who has recently retired and is wanting to start this up on the side. That's the reality, because they have got more time to put into their business. So our lives are already full, but if you're wanting to bring something into the world, it has to have some of your time. You need to be able to allocate and ring fence some time to work on your business. Now, when I first started with the How people, when we came back from our travels, we were homeschooling 2 kids. So I really didn't have any time during the day without the children. 2 were going to school, 2 were at home. But what I did was made sure I got up an hour earlier every day. And really, the How people was started on 1 hour a day for 4 days a week, certainly for the first 6 months of the business. So anything is possible, but it has to be a deliberate decision and a deliberate allocation of time in our busy lives. And I think there is always time that we can find time to do other things. And I think, procrastination around time often comes from a sort of sense of fear. So if we are procrastinating, if you've decided to do something and you're still not allocating time to it, what is stopping you? What is holding you back? Because I think if we're really honest and we look at our time, there's always a bit of Netflix in there, a bit of scrolling in there, a little bit of time wasting in there. Even if we can find 10 minutes a day to work on our business, that is better than nothing at the beginning. So working through the blocks of what is stopping you is important. Journaling about what is stopping you is important. Spending 5 minutes a day at the end of every day journaling can really, really open those, thought processes and channels out for you. And we work a lot with Tanya Lynch from Ease Retreats, who has a journaling lunchtime workshop weekly that I thoroughly recommend you try and attend if you're struggling with that. But having a business journal and a personal journal can be quite useful, so that even if you've sent 1 email, made 1 connection, written 1 slide deck, done 1 Instagram post, you can make a bit of a note of those things in your business diary. Doing a time audit is something that I've done recently, like literally looking at every single half an hour of my day and how I spend it. That will make you realize how much you might be spending on scrolling or how much you might be spending on doing other things. So I'm not preaching about time, and I'm not preaching about boundaries, but you have to find time. A business doesn't grow on its own. Nobody writes stuff for you. Nobody comes up with the copy content for your website, for your social media posts. You have to do it yourself. So finding time, don't procrastinate, find an accountability buddy. If you're in a business group, you might be able to find somebody that wants to do the same thing. Maybe you could have a co-working Zoom call so that you both log on together, check in for a couple of minutes, have 45 minutes working on your business, check in at the end, and off you go on your day. That can work for some people. At the beginning, I was finding pockets of time to work on my business when I was on the school run, arriving 5 minutes before, waiting outside the drama class to bring one of my kids home. That was the kind of time snatches I was having to use to work on my business. And I'm not advocating that as a really good idea, because I think that can make you feel quite frenetic and always on the back foot. But that's the kind of effort I was putting into trying to find the time. When I was in the car, I was listening to business podcasts. I was really, really trying to find that time to work on my business. So put it in your planner, commit to that time, make sure you have plenty of breaks, and look after your own well-being in the meantime. You don't want to be all business, family, or work, but you've got to allow it time. People sometimes come to me 6 months on after having their business idea, and then are like, well, nothing's moving forward. And actually you look at the amount of time they're spending on it and you can see why. But as you move through, particularly if you've got a family, I think boundaries do become more important, and actually separating, am I 100% business? Am I 100% parenting? Is a much more healthy way of doing it. But that is a very difficult point to get to. So those are the things around time. I think we do have to look at our average week. We do have to do a bit of a time audit. We do have to critically look at what we're doing. You have to make sacrifices. I don't sit down, or I certainly didn't. I'm much better now. I don't sit down in the evenings and watch TV. I don't sit there scrolling through Facebook looking at other people's holiday photos. I'm not a YouTube addict. I tend to use all of my dead time as much as possible. And I don't sign up for things like, PTA stuff and organising things for the kids. I think I stepped back from that quite a long time ago. But are there things that you're doing that you can say no to? Are there things that you can stop doing? And being clear on people and saying, I'm actually starting a business, so I'm going to reduce my external commitments for the next year so that I can allocate time to the business. And there are obviously practical stuff, especially in the school holidays, around getting help, having sort of play dates, swaps with friends, that sort of thing can actually just buy you a couple of hours. But the reality is there's going to be some hard work. There's going to be some late nights, some early mornings. You're going to feel squeezed with your time. Ultimately, we're looking for that not to continue for too long. But if you're trying to do this around a full-time job, you're keeping a wage coming in, which is a good idea, and you're trying to grow a business. So time is a biggie, okay? And there's no getting away from it. The second thing that I really am passionate about people understanding at the beginning are the people that you surround yourself by. When you choose to run a business, when you choose to take a different path, you will notice that there are people in your current world that maybe don't understand what you're doing particularly. Maybe there's a little bit of friction because there are lots of people out there that have ideas that don't do anything with them. And if they see you actually doing something with it, then there can be a little bit of friction, a little bit of kickback, sometimes a little bit of envy, and sometimes a lack of interest. And you will realize very quickly that people are very busy and people are actually not that interested in what you're doing, which is excellent news for you if you're worried about what to post on social media, because people give so much less of a shit than you think they do. So I would suggest when you start doing this, you need to find people around you that understand what you're doing. And this is not about surrounding yourself in a silo of people blowing smoke up your ass. This is about finding your tribe and people that get it, people that have maybe been through it or a little bit further ahead than you, people that understand the challenges of showing up and persistently doing something and looking for clients and having discovery calls and understanding what rejection is like and all of those things, because most people have never done this. So where are you finding those people? And are there people around you that are actually sort of making life more difficult for you to have these sort of, more growth mindset and more sort of open-minded conversation. So you don't need to talk about your business with everybody. There will be people sometimes very, very close to you that actually you don't really talk about it very much. Those can be in your direct family, your parents, partners, friends, old school friends, and that's okay. Work out who to talk to about this and who not to talk to about this, but go out there and find groups of people. In-person networking is amazing. The one-to-one conversations that you can have in a 1 hour lunchtime session locally can be incredibly powerful. If people reach out to you on Twitter or LinkedIn or social media, build a relationship with them, get on a phone with them, have a coffee with them. That's how I've met some incredible people at the beginning of running my business. It really is, because I knew nobody in the entrepreneur space at all, nobody that was really running their own business. I had a couple of friends that were married to people that were quite high up, marketing directors, finance directors, somebody that started their own business, and they all sat me down at the beginning and tried to help me, and they were all absolutely brilliant, but I needed people that were at the beginning with me as well. So try and build your community, your network, a big sort of ecosystem of support around you. And that's why, I initially started up what I did with my program and community, because other medics that get what's going on can really, really support you on your way. I would consider investing in some sort of coach or mentor, whether it's a life coach or a business mentor or a transformational coach. If you're going through that period of change and you're not sure what you want it to be, an hour of being in the right presence, the presence of the right person can move you forward dramatically. Find local Facebook groups, like I say, local networking opportunities, and don't just sit there passively looking at what everyone's doing. Engage with what people are doing, comment meaningfully on people's stuff, reach out to people on LinkedIn, direct message people, support other people in what they're doing. If you like what somebody's written, tell them that you like it, show them how it relates to something that you've experienced. You never know who is watching what you're doing. And I'm talking here quite generically about social media. It's definitely not the first thing that I would be doing. But if you are out there on social media, which a lot of people are, they are very passive. So be proactive, be helpful, add value, make time to interact with people on social media or in real life, and make time to be with people who fill your cup rather than those people who drain your energy. And you're going to be probably moving away from certain people as you do this and towards others. There are certain people that I would choose to go out for a coffee with now who are just really interesting people I've met through doing this, who aren't necessarily people that were friends before. So build up your network, build up your community online and offline. Eventbrite is a great place to start. If you live in a university town, there's usually lots going on in relation to the university business school. So use those places, use LinkedIn, and try and get involved with other people on their entrepreneurial journey. So that is people. The third thing is a sense of place. This is about your surroundings. This is about giving your business a sense of place. I think particularly if you are a parent and you have children and you're trying to fit this in around work and putting the washing out and making the tea and everything else, and I've been guilty of this in the past, I've basically just tried to squeeze my business into the end of the kitchen table. I've had my computer there, particularly when the kids were younger. If I can, I pass the computer and nobody needs me, I'll answer an email. And it took a long time for it to feel like a real thing, not just to me, but to everybody else, because I wasn't really giving it that sense of place and that sense of importance that I think it needs. So if you're going to start a business, when you run a family, you're working, everybody around you needs to know that you're working on a business and that this needs some of your time. If you have a place in the house where you're working, so I now work in the corner of the sitting room. If I'm sitting at this desk, I'm working on my business. If I'm sitting at the end of the kitchen table, then I am free reign to talk to. But if I'm at my desk, people don't tend to come in and talk to me if I'm here, but obviously they can, but they know that I'm working. They also know that between 6 and 7, if I'm sitting at my desk, I'm definitely recording. So they will not even come in the room. So they know that if I'm up earlier for an hour, I'm working. And if I'm at this desk, I'm working. A friend of mine, Holly, who is an online English teacher, she has 2 different phones. Her children are much younger. She has like a red phone and iPad for work and a normal phone and computer for other stuff. So if she's on her red things, then that is work. So a signal to everybody around you that you are working is really important. So again, at the beginning, this was all very merged for me, particularly with homeschooling. Tom would be working. I would be working next to him. I was trying to fit it in around. I was constantly thinking about all the washing I was ignoring and the fact that I had to, think about dinner and answer the door if anybody came. Like, that's not deep work on your business. And there were lots of memes in COVID, weren't there, about people working from home and actually, doing all the things. But it's when you are at home, there are those normal distractions. So again, as you get into business and as you start developing your own diary, are you 100% in or are you not? Are you 100% home? And you have to ignore all the stuff that needs to be done at home if you're going to work on your business. So getting out, using a library, using a coffee shop, finding somewhere else to work is generally a good idea at some point. And I've started using, there's a bench that I use to do some messages in the morning after the end of my walk. And I'm going to be looking at sort of going down and using the library much more over the summer because I feel like I need to be out of the house a little bit more. Some people have that transition period, that sort of 2 or 3 minutes between home and work. So maybe a short meditation, maybe a little bit of exercise, maybe a certain song that you play that signifies your brain the transition between being a parent or being a homeowner and a home person and working. I think if you do have a computer and you are working at home, shutting it at the end of the day is a very deliberate move to say, I'm not opening that up again. Again, this is something that I am constantly learning and doing, but giving my business a sense of place has made a big difference. The 4th thing I want to talk about is money, which probably should be the first thing that we talk about. We mentioned back in the time section that everybody has a very different financial situation. Everyone has a very different time situation. Some people are working full time, some people are retired, some people have got children, some people haven't. You cannot compare. The same realistically goes for money. Everybody is in very different financial situations, and I am not here to give financial advice of any sort. Some people have huge mortgages and are struggling to pay bills. Other people have paid off their mortgages, have downsized. We have to consider that a business is going to take a certain amount of financial investment to get off its feet. And I think for me, when we spent a year away, and since travel has become a bigger part of our life, it's really made me think about what I spend on other things. And we've never been massive spenders, but we've certainly massively reduced what we spend on socializing, for example, compared to previously. We've never been big people for going out for dinner, but we never really go out for dinner. I'm not a big shopper. The kids buy stuff off Vinted if they want something. The teenagers. We have now got into a bit of a bad habit of having a coffee sometimes, whenever we go out. The kids will grab an ice cream if they're down the beach. Those sort of things. When we were traveling, before we traveled, we didn't do any of that because we actually realized how much money you spend on ice cream and coffee when you go out of the door. So there are obviously practical things that we need to put in place around how much money we're spending, but there are little ways that you can save. But your business needs to have some cash. Now, I always use the comparison, like most people in my world are looking at building an online business rather than a bricks and mortar business. If you were going to start a massage parlor on the high street, an organic bakery, even a kind of pre-loved clothing shop on the high street, wherever you live, you would need to have some money to invest in that. You'd need to have rent of the building. You'd need to be paying the bills. You'd have to be paying your staff. You'd have to be looking at stock, probably need redecorating. Before you even started, you would have an outlay of thousands of pounds. Then you would have your monthly running costs of that business, which again would be in the thousands with rent and everything else that you may need. So that somehow that is okay. And everybody accepts that to build a bricks and mortar business, that would take investment. But when we're looking at building an online business or building something that is more service-based, time for money, coaching, lifestyle medicine, consultations online, etc., people suddenly feel like they don't need to spend anything. The reality is you are going to have to. And I think the best thing is to have a pot of money, whether it's money that you've set aside and you see that as a director's loan, or whether you have somebody that can lend you your first £1,000, £3,000. For us with the How People, my dad gave us our first £1,000 and he said to us, this is to invest in some leaflets for your business. And, you know, it was brilliant of him and we were incredibly grateful. And we spent that on actually having some business mentoring and coaching to teach us about the software that we wanted to use. And then we paid him back. And then he gave us £5,000 about 2 years later because we needed to invest in further things. And that is still there for us to pay him back when we want to. So he was like he was a friends and family investor. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different ways that you can get that money. But for this business, I've self-invested. I put a lump of money at the beginning that I was going to spend on business coaching, on all the indemnity, on the different aspects that I was going to need. So there is a list within the PDF of the things that you're definitely going to need. So if you need CQC, which is something that I discuss in 2 of the podcasts, I will reference below. If you need CQC, which is something that I would consider lightly unless you know you definitely need it, you don't need to have it straight away. You're going to have the costs of setting up plus the annual costs of that. You're going to have things like Zoom and domain and web hosting. You've got your insurance and indemnity. If you're running a business, Canva Pro or something equivalent to help you with the graphics that you need to do. You may need a new computer. You may need a microphone. You're going to need some mentoring and coaching. You may need some different software. Then you're going to need to have things like leaflets and actual graphics that you might want to take to in-person events. You might want business cards. So all of these things add up. And rather than just taking it all out of your mixed household account, put a sum of money into a business account and just use that. So you've got this sense of finance around your business as well as a sense of place, people and time. If you're going to have a physical place, then you're going to be looking at rental costs. You're going to be looking at potential subletting fees, heating bills, staff salaries. People then start looking at, coffee machines and house plants and get very excited and end up spending a fortune in IKEA to kit out their new room. So being sensible about costs is important because they can run away with you. But secretarial, admin staff, all of that stuff, you don't need to employ people. There are lots of people out there that you can have support you on more of an ad hoc basis now. Again, there are lots of organisations that things like Fiverr and Upwork are places where you can find people to do certain skills. Generally, they are in India or the Philippines. There are some great people out there. There are also some people that don't do as much of a good job as maybe you would hope. And most of the time, I've found it much better to build a relationship with somebody in the UK and use somebody for fewer numbers of hours, but use somebody that I know is going to do a great job. So we talk a little bit in the PDF about the 10 ways to create initial revenue for your business. And I'm just going to rattle through those. So the first one is to review your spending. It's a tough pill to swallow, but how are you spending your money? What are you spending on? Are there some savings that you can make to your family outgoings that you can then put into a pot for your business? So reviewing your spending. The second way of finding that initial revenue from your business is to find your first client. Find the first person that wants to pay you and use that money to then invest in yourself, in your learning, in your business, in your software, in your mentor, whatever it is that you need. So when I first set up my business coaching for medics, I was actually approached by somebody that wanted me to do this for her. She wanted me to find the time to mentor and support her. And when I did that, and after a period of a couple of months of doing that for very, very small amounts of money and building my confidence, the first £1,000 that I earned from her, I reinvested straight away into my own learning. So reaching out and finding your first client, that can bring the first bit of money into your business. Investing a small amount of your own savings and writing that down as a director's loan, making sure that if you're in a co-founder operation that you both do that, I think is important. And that director's loan might be £500, £1,000, something to get you started, and writing that down in your ledger so it's clear that that's not just money that's being siphoned in, that is a director's loan that you're paying yourself. If you don't have that director's loan, then somebody within your world will. And this is the same whether you are looking for crowdfunding or anything like that. Your friends and family, your extended network, somebody that's really, really passionate about what you do or has a vested interest might be happy to support you to get started. And there would be a very personal arrangement between that. They may say to you, look, I'll give you £1,000 for the next year, and then you can pay me back. Or they might say, if you needed more, say you had a bricks and mortar setup, you needed 10 grand, they may give you 10 grand on a particular interest level or whatever. But look within your friends and family for that first lot of money. Obviously you can go to a bank and you can get loans from the bank, but just being a little bit mindful of the fact that there may be somebody out there that gets it, that wants to be your first supporter and your first champion. I think the other thing that I come to now is that when you do start earning money in your business, I think it's really important to have this profit first approach. I've run 2 businesses where I haven't paid myself any money, and you run out of steam very, very quickly. So really this basic sum of paying yourself 50%, putting 35% back in the business and 15% for tax, super basic. That won't last for very long. You'll need to rethink that. But reinvesting in your learning, reinvesting in your business, upskilling yourself, improving the tech, whatever it may be, that's 35% of what you're getting paid, but you take that 50% off first. So 40 to 50, pay yourself. Have it in a separate account. Don't just put it into the joint account and let it disappear, and keeping some aside for tax. The other way of getting your first money is a startup loan. Be careful of the rates. All of the business banks do them. You can also apply for government grants or local business grants. Often there is a bit of a limitation of being a limited company or a sole trader, but so many medics that I'm working with are doing such incredible, purposeful projects that quite often they would tick the boxes in the health and wellbeing sector, for example. So have a look at what is out there. I've got a couple of people that have approached me and they factored in my fees as a business mentor as part of their business grants, and they've been able to apply for websites, logos, startup fees, social media costs, PR, etc. under a government grant, a matching scheme where they've paid 5,000 and then the government have paid 5,000 to match. So you're getting some free money. Obviously, it takes time. You've got to fill in lots of forms. They don't hand it to you on a plate, but it's worth that little bit of hard work to get that money into the business as well. We've talked a little bit about this sort of concept of a friends and family, but there may be angel investors in your network, particularly as you start business networking. You may come across angel investor groups, people that are happy to invest in your business. I'm working a lot or seeing a lot of people going into this health tech innovation space. And this is big bucks now. And actually, I'm seeing really early stage ideas going for massive VC investment without having really a proof of concept or anything, let alone knowing that you actually love what you do. So I'm a big fan of actually making those steps at the beginning. Is this something I can do for a long time? Is this something I want to invest a huge amount of my time for? Is this the kind of area I want to work in for the next 2 years? Before you sort of get these rose tinted, like sparkly kind of ideas and go and get thousands and hundreds of thousands of pounds from some investor to get started on a tech company for a business that you're not even that interested in. So just be mindful of how you're going to start this business. Is this going to have longevity, or is this going to be, a longevity in a lifestyle business, or is this a quick growing fast exit tech business? Those are two very different things. The vast majority of people that I help are wanting to build a business alongside their family or medical career, and that has got to have legs to be able to continue on its own without massive funding investments from other people. Crowdfunding is, again, another thing that people do. Crowdfunding is a process on its own. It's something that you need to learn about. If you're interested in crowdfunding, I'd recommend you look up Hattie Fawcett, who does her own courses on it, and there is it's like running a complete entity in itself. You need to have a good amount of funding in there before people are attracted to fund you. So do learn a lot about it if you are interested in doing it. So I hope that helps. We've gone through time, we've gone through place, we've gone through people, and we've gone through money. These are the four things, as I say, the bedrock before we start building our business, before we start thinking about all of the things that we need to do. Have we allocated and are we surrounding ourselves by the people that are going to give us the best chance of making this happen? So thank you for listening. Reach out if you want to ask any questions and download the PDF from the link in the show notes. I hope this episode has sparked some new ideas or challenged your thinking. Transitioning from medicine to business is not easy. It's about adapting our skills while embracing the unknowns of entrepreneurship. It can be nerve-wracking, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Please feel free to reach out to me via direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or just shoot me an email at joe@bendylegs.com for support. And don't forget to grab the free PDF from the show notes, From Stethoscope to Startup, which is your go-to guide and resource for diving into entrepreneurship. Many thanks for tuning in. I will see you next time. Thanks for spending your precious time with me.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.